Hello, lovely ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Women, Men, and Relationships. I'm your host, JJ Flizanes. If this is the first time you're tuning in, a little bit about me. I'm the host of the Fit to Love podcast show, and this show was born out of my Sexy Saturday show on that channel. So if you hear me refer to Sexy Saturdays or Fit to Love, that's where it comes from. Today's first show is going to be about the biggest mistake women make in dating. And if you haven't listened to episode 0, I encourage you to do so you know a little bit more about me and my tone and my point of view and my goals and hopes and dreams for you and this show, so that you understand my point of view and where we're coming from, so that you can take as much out of it as possible. I hope you enjoy today's show. Today's show, the biggest mistake women make in dating. The information on the show today can be applied not only to women who are dating and looking for a mate, but also to women who are married or in relationship that are currently not happy with what's going on or have experienced a change from the time they met their partner to now, and some of the behavioral modifications that have happened because of the different dynamics in your relationship. The 3 things we're going to cover today are what I think the biggest mistake is, and this is based on my own personal experience, of course, and what I see other clients and friends and family make on a regular basis. Number 2, why we do it, because there's a reason why we do it. It's not that we mean to. There's an actual unfolding of our history and the patterns and habits and the modeling that has happened to bring us to today. And then 3, how do we stop it? How do we change it? What do we do? What are some tips and tools that we can become aware of and add into our daily life so that we can make these changes and attract and open up the possibility of having a real partnership with another person? So first, before we get started, I just want to let everyone know, in case you don't, this Fit to Love podcast show, this is our first week, and I thank you so much for being here for our first week. I hope you've enjoyed the shows, the audio and the video shows, and if you don't know about the rest of the shows, please come to fittolove.tv to check it out, and you can find the video casts and the audio casts on iTunes. I'm the author of a book called Fit to Love: How to Get Physically, Emotionally, and Spiritually Fit to Attract the Love of Your Life. I wrote this book back in 2010 after I had met and married my husband, and really looked at the lessons and the tools that I used in order to attract him. I wanted to share it with other women who might have been struggling like I had, or had wondered, when is this going to happen for me, or what am I doing wrong, and the lessons learned along the way. Fit to Love will be republished. The second edition is coming out in February of 2015. In the meantime, if you'd like a copy of the book, I'd be happy to give you one of the old version, because some of the tips and tools we're going to talk about today are in the back of the book in the how-to section. So you can go to fittolove.info/love. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVE.info/love. And you can download for free right now the copy of the old version and follow along with me if you'd like when it gets to point number 3 about how do we stop these behaviors and add new ones that really bring us what it is that we're desiring. So the first question is, well, what is the biggest mistake? In my opinion, the biggest mistake that women make in dating and in relationships is taking on the masculine role. This begs the question, what's the difference between a feminine and a masculine role, and why are women doing it, and why do I keep doing it, and what's the problem with that? When I was looking for a relationship, I treated it like a job. And I mentioned this in the book. One of my acupuncturists at the time, who was a man, said to me, and I appreciate this more than he'll ever know, he said to me, JJ, take the gun off and put the badge down. And I had to laugh because it was the clearest message about how I was using my masculine energy to go out and look for a relationship. Now, when women are in their masculine energy, and let's go over what the difference that is for masculine energy. So masculine energy is very logical. It's very strategic. It's very confident. It's about stability. It's very linear. It's very work-oriented. It's very, think of caveman, it's hunt the deer, hunt the deer, hunt the deer. It's single-focused. And feminine energy, when we looking back at the relationship between sort of the caveman and the cavewoman, the man's job was to hunt the deer, to bring the food home so they could survive. And the women, we have diffused awareness. We can go out and pick berries. See, a man couldn't necessarily, and I don't mean this so literally, women and men both share masculine and feminine traits. So if you're listening to this, remember that I'm not trying to pigeonhole anyone into all women should have mostly feminine traits and all men should mostly have masculine traits. That's not it at all. Everyone has both of these traits. It's how in touch with them we are, it's how much of them we access, and it's when we use them that matters. But being aware of them is really the most important part to start with. So let's talk about that. So we are genetically cavemen and women. And survival, while we're not concerned about our survival as much these days, which has allowed us to become more conscious and internal about our thoughts and our feelings, and that's a whole nother topic that we're going to talk about later. But let's go back to just the caveman reptilian brain that we have about survival. Men are single focused. They were designed biologically to be able to have more muscle, more testosterone, to go out and hunt a deer, hunt the bull, hunt the whatever. The boar, the meat source, the protein source, the food source that we're going to eat in order to survive and keep the species evolving. And women were meant to have diffused awareness. We have more estrogen and less testosterone. We don't build as much muscle as men do. We can pick berries. That's why we're better at finding our keys. That's why we can look at a bush of berries and quickly pick out the ones that are ripe. Versus a single focused male, let's go back to cavemen, would have to look under every single leaf, which would take forever. We are designed to be diffused awareness and to multitask. That doesn't mean we need to multitask, it just means that we have that diffused awareness. So when I was going out and dating and being at the bar and sitting with friends and having a glass of wine, in the back of my mind, I was focused. I was single focused. I was looking for a man, which sent off very masculine energy. And the problem is that I also wanted a masculine man. I wanted a man that had more dominant masculine traits. See, there's a polarity that happens with masculine and feminine energy. And it happens in homosexual relationships as well. You'll notice that two women or two men, somebody probably has a little more dominant feminine and the other person has a little more dominant masculine. It's very rare you're going to find two people with the exact amount because they're going to repel each other. In order to attract, we have to have polarity. So if I want a masculine man, I'm not going to attract a masculine man with masculine energy. I'm going to attract, and I'm not going to pull forth from a man tenderness and caretaking if I'm using my masculine energy. They're going to want to fight me or they're going to challenge me. And I had a lot of that and they were really fun. I had a lot of really fun masculine relationships that, were competitive. And that was healthy for some aspects of my life, but not necessarily for a relationship. And again, not necessarily because of what I wanted out of my relationship. If I wanted to be the dominant masculine energy, then I need to understand that I'm going to attract a man who's got more feminine energy. And that's going to have its own set of pluses and issues that come along with that. And as long as I'm okay with that, and that's what I decide consciously, then I can use my masculine energy to attract a man that wants me to hunt the deer, wants me to take charge, wants me to make the plans, wants me to go to work every day. And I've dated those ones too. And I started to lose respect for them. And I think a lot of women these days, because of our education and the desire to have a career and the desire for independence, both financially and just mentally, feeling like our own person, the desire to have a passion and to have a cause and a purpose, men are very purposeful. Masculine dominated men need to feel on purpose. It's different than a woman who needs to feel love or freedom and light and a lightness and a nurturing when it comes down to our, again, that innate masculine and innate feminine that's in all of us. So the first point was, what's the biggest mistake? Well, the biggest mistake is that we women are using our masculine energy too much. We're taking our work and how we perform at work and we use it to date. And the problem with that is that men are repelled by that. Again, if you're a woman who wants a masculine man, you leave no room for him. If you can do it all and you're the best at everything and you know everything, then why do you need a man? Men want to contribute to women. Men want to provide for women. And if you give him no reason to provide for you and no reason to contribute to you, then there's no reason for him. And then it becomes an emasculating situation. And men are smart enough to know they don't want to be emasculated. So they usually don't like those kinds of women. They're not attracted to them because they know that they're going to be susceptible to be emasculated. So it's a self-preservation that men run the other direction from women who are too bossy and manipulating and too confident and over, and they, all of their needs, they get met. They don't need a man. Now, when I say need, I don't mean needy as in dependent and you couldn't do it. Because I think we've moved into a stage of our consciousness where we recognize that everybody has the ability to get their needs met. And we are no longer, and this leads us into that second part of why are we doing this? Why are we using our masculine energy so much? Why are we so attached to being this strong, confident, and not that strong and confident are bad, please, hello. I love being strong, and I hope that I'm confident. I feel pretty confident. I feel pretty secure. But why are we doing this? Well, if we go back a couple generations and we look at our grandparents, at least my grandparents come from that Archie Bunker generation. Let's call that the first stage. So that first stage was men kind of owned women. I don't know, women I think could vote, but let's go back to the time where women couldn't vote, right? There weren't equal rights. And women were treated like property, and women had no financial security. They didn't work. So that sets up a very uneven balance of power in a relationship and sort of puts a man on a pedestal and a woman not, sort of like a servant. And most of us didn't like that. I mean, they didn't like that. Women didn't like that, obviously, because the second stage was my parents' generation. And my parents' generation, the women said, we're not going to do this anymore. I mean, that's when the 70s happened, and women wanted equality, and women wanted to work, and wanted their men to be softer and have more feelings and emotion, and didn't want them to be so bossy and controlling, and women wanted to contribute and have a purpose. So we've evolved into the second stage where women became more masculine and men became more feminine. And that was great because it served its purpose. It was a reaction to the first stage where men might have liked being sort of the center of the power, but relationships weren't very satisfying. And once we've moved into a generation where our needs are getting met and survival isn't in question any longer, now where do you look at your life and see what's working? Well, you look at your relationships and your purpose on this earth, and if you're feeling fulfilled in the work that you're doing. So first stage relationships wanted equality. So they moved into second stage. Second stage relationships had equality. Men were more feminine and women were more masculine. Women were working. Men were in their feeling stages. But what happened then? Well, what happened then is we moved into our generation, or my generation, which looked at that and said, okay, men need a spine. We like them to be emotional, but we want them still to be the provider. And women need to be softer. While you can have independence, you're cutting off the do-it-all, the superwoman, I can do it all, then has women tired and having adrenal fatigue and resenting their men at the end of the day because they want help. They want to be supported. They want to be provided for. But something about the ego has gotten in the way to say, well, no, I can do it myself. At first, we do it ourselves because we want to prove to somebody else that we can do it. And that all comes from a really deep place of feeling inadequate. When you know and you trust yourself, you don't have to prove it to anybody. Why we're doing this is for a couple different reasons. If you're single and you're looking for a man, you're probably wanting to show him how great you are. And so you're wanting to display for him all these different ways in which you've accomplished things in your life. You've bought a house, you have a great career, you're very educated, you have nice things, you have accomplished, you've written a book, you've, started a company, and you're very proud of that. But the overuse of masculine energy and shoving that down his throat is more competitive in nature. We do it because we want others to like us. At the end of the day, we want the guy to think we're great. But here's the problem. It has to start out with you thinking you're great. And in order for a man to really hear you and see you, he's not going to see you in masculine energy. Masculine energy is going to want him to fight. It's going to challenge him. So he's going to want to do the same thing you're doing. He's going to tell you how great he is and all things he's accomplished. I mean, we've all been in a situation, whether it be in a date or in a family gathering or in a party where you've had someone just talk your ear off about how great they are, and do you feel attracted to them? Do you want to spend more time with them? Normally you don't. You're sort of repelled by it, even if you're not wanting to date them, because it's not inviting. And not that you can't be proud of yourself and you can't share that, but there's a point in which, why are you doing it? What is the purpose of sharing it? If you're sharing it because you're really happy and excited, great. But if you're doing it because you want them to like you and respect you, you usually get the opposite from that. So now we're on to how to stop it and what to do about it. And before that, I would like to stop and take a moment to thank the sponsors of this show. Are you single and tired of online dating? Are you in a relationship that you're just not getting your needs met or getting the love that you really, really want? Well, I have a quiz for you to take that covers different aspects of what contribute to your ability to attract and manifest love, both from new people as well as the people that are currently in your life. If you want to find out a little bit more about what aspects you may be missing that are contributing to your current situations, come on over to fit2love.tv/love. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVE.TV/love. All right, so now maybe you're thinking and reviewing all of your dates and how you handle your relationships with men, and looking at yourself from a different perspective and seeing that maybe sometimes you are selling yourself a little too hard, and realizing that that's not coming from a place of love and security within yourself. It's coming from a place of wanting to prove yourself, of wanting to compete. And competition is a masculine trait. And I have it, so I know. I love competition, but I love competition with myself more than anyone. So always check in with yourself and see where the motivation of what you're doing, what you're saying, how you're being, how you're showing up, why are you doing that? It really will benefit you in the long run to start to mindfully pay attention to how you act and why you act the way that you do. So before we get into how to stop it, let's review really what the difference between feminine and masculine energy is on a different level. So let's start with the masculine. Again, think caveman, think single focus, think hunt the deer, think, we want our men to be that way. We want them to finish projects. We want them to be able to provide, because we're the shiny object people, right? So imagine if a man's trying to hunt a deer, then he sees a butterfly, and it's like, oh, look over there. Well, then he's lost the deer, and now we're going to starve. Men are designed to be like that. However, some men are very good multitaskers. So I hope all of you realize I'm not trying to say that men aren't good multitaskers. I'm just saying you're designed to be more single focused than we are. And women, we have less testosterone and more estrogen, and actually we get adrenal fatigue a lot faster when we try to pigeonhole ourselves into a single focus and disconnect from the flow of feminine energy. We are light, we are love, we are nurturing, we bring life into the world. Yes, we have to have sperm to fertilize the egg in order to bring life into the world, but we create that energy and power within our bodies. It's such a powerful thing, and I think a lot of women don't acknowledge the power within themselves. We'll talk about this on another show, but your menstrual cycle. A lot of women, especially in the United States, have a very negative, dysfunctional relationship with what their body does, which can create a whole bunch of health concerns. Physical issues can occur because of the disconnection, the disrespect, and the distaste, the toxic, angry energy that women have in relationships to their power. We cut off our power by disrespecting our bodies and how we were built and why we were built and the gifts we were given. And one of those gifts is to be able to bear children and to have life. And even if you're not bearing children, you still have the cycle. If you have a flow, it means you have the capacity to bring life. But most of us, not all of us, but a lot of us haven't had models to show us our power. We've been disconnected. And some of that comes from fear. Some of that comes from, again, modeling in the future, because, men, I'm sure at some point didn't want women to be powerful. That was that whole the burning of the witches and all that crazy stuff back then, that they didn't understand. They were fearful of the power that women had, and they didn't recognize it as something that was contributing to the world. So it's understandable why we act the way we do in some of these instances. I think our job these days is for us to recognize that, to acknowledge that, and to make conscious changes. We are at the most conscious time in history. We have less violence and war, even though I know you're seeing it on television, but we absolutely have less violence and war and killings on a regular basis than we have in any decade in this century and in last century. So at this point, we are called at this time to go inward and to really get to know ourselves. We study everything except ourselves. We get master's degrees and PhDs, and we study and learn and travel and ask questions and be tourists and research all kinds of stuff about everything else except ourselves. I'd like you to become a master of yourself. Get your PhD in you, how you work, who you are, how you feel, what you think, what has happened to you, and what has happened because of what has happened to you, and then figure out what to do with that. That to me is where we're going as a society, and I'm very excited about it because I hope to help and give you tools to get there. So how do we look at our feminine masculine energy? If you're masculine, things like freedom, direction, logic, focus, integrity, stability, passion, independence, discipline, confidence, being authentic and being aware, those are some technically masculine traits. Of course, I relate to most of them because I would say I probably have at least 30% masculine energy in me. That is probably a little bit less than in past times where I was working for myself and working by myself and single and dating more feminine men, while I was also contributing and taking care of and driving and paying for things, So I would say I have learned how to sort of decrease the amount of masculine energy I tap into in my relationship so that I could allow my husband to be the man, and that's what I wanted. Now, if you're listening and you're wondering what feminine energy traits are, we have surrendering, opening, blossoming like the flower. Reception, the ability to receive is feminine because that's what we do in intercourse. That's how a baby gets to be born, is we have to be able to receive what is given to us from the masculine. Emotion is feminine. Radiance, flow, like the waves, like the water, like the air, flow, sensuality, nurturing. Nurturing is biological. I mean, people without children feel the need to nurture something. Women, most of the time. Affection, sharing, gentleness, patience, love. These are very feminine. Creativity. Okay, I'd put passion in feminine as well. These are feminine traits. And in order to, if you would like a masculine man, or at least a balanced man that has both. I don't know that 50-50 is going to work for polarity, but you could try it. But if you're listening and you want more femininity in your life and you're listening to these different feminine traits and thinking, I don't really have a lot of those, these are things that you practice. And also, on the flip side, if you're a woman who's extremely feminine and you would like a little bit more masculine energy, a little more left brain action, more analysis and logic and focus and stability and discipline, then absolutely you can practice that and you can add that in. Same thing for a man. If you're a man and you have zero connection to your emotion and you're very rigid, although I'd be really surprised if you're listening to my show, let me know if you are somehow attracted to my show. If you would like some more feminine energy so that you can connect on a deeper level, so that you can break through some of the patterns of protection that you've had all your life for whatever reasons, whatever traumas have happened to you, then you can also use some of these feminine traits like love and patience and sharing and affection and nurturing. Absolutely. And being in touch with your emotions. It's so powerful and it's so healthy for men and women to really get in touch with their emotions. So now we're going to go to what we do about it. So in the book, it's in the old version, it's chapter 14, and it's your 4-week plan. But there are 5 steps in the Fit to Love process. The first one is clean the slate. We're not going to go over that. Sexual fitness and a food love affair, wear sexy underwear, and thank your lucky stars. So some of the things that you can be doing for women if you're wanting to accentuate your feminine energy would be to start wearing feminine clothes or adorn yourself in some way, whether it be jewelry, makeup, a dress, high heels, rings, earrings, something. It doesn't have to be, if you're a very masculine woman and the thought of a dress makes you want to hurl, then just start with a piece of jewelry or start with some makeup, put on some mascara, something that evokes more of a softening from you. Buying yourself flowers. One of the things that women expect from men, and this will definitely be on a different show, is they expect men to make them happy. That is the biggest mistake that everyone makes in relationships, is to expect that the other person will make you happy. Again, that will be another show. If you desire someone to give you something or do something for you, do it for yourself, especially in the ways that open you up, that you feel special and adorned. Flowers. I'm having a dinner for some family members tonight, and I bought 3 bouquets of flowers, one for outside, one for inside, and one for the bathroom, because flowers bring out that natural essence, that natural vibration of beauty and love and creativity and openness and flow. So buy yourself some flowers, fresh flowers on a regular basis, and throw out, if you haven't listened to Lynn Sherrill's show on feng shui and how your office affects your health, please do so. It's going to help you set up the energy in your space so that you can evoke more easily some of these emotions. If you're wanting to add more masculine into your life, if you're a man and you need some discipline, you absolutely can help set up some systems to create more discipline. If you're a woman who needs more discipline because you're so loose and so free and so gentle and so that you're feeling like I need better boundaries, then you can start practicing that as well. But this show's topic was the biggest mistake women make in dating, which I do believe is using too much masculine energy. So here's the top 5 things that I would recommend to start to soften that and practice, because it's a practice. The reason why you're using too much masculine energy is because you're at work, you're in school, you're doing, you're accomplishing, you're focusing, and that's all very masculine. And when you come home, or when you stop working if you work for yourself, and your husband's home and you're supposed to get together with him, you haven't practiced feminine. So to practice feminine would be to stop working, would be to put on something that adorns you. Again, jewelry, makeup, you could just do one thing, but you could do all of it, and you would probably feel transformed. You could put on some music and move yourself from your brain and your head down into your body. You can meditate. If dancing doesn't do it for you, if there's absolutely no music that you love, although I find that hard to believe that someone could really exist and not be attracted to at least one kind of music. If you can't find any music, although music and dancing will do it immediately. It will move you from your head into your body. So get some music. That's point number 3. Point number 4 would be to listen. Be quiet. Stop talking. When your husband comes home, or your boyfriend, or whoever, they need transition time. Allow them their transition time. Don't jump right in. Be receiving. Receive. Open yourself up energetically to say, what am I going to be receiving? What would you like me to receive from you today? And number 5, ask for help. Ask for help. It is not a sign of weakness. I know that I can go to the store and get something from the store, but when I ask my husband, he feels like he is contributing to me. So ask for help with something. Now, if they don't do it, that's okay. It's just the practice of receiving. So many women don't know how to receive. They don't say thank you. They feel weird. They love giving, but they can't receive. And both have to be equal in proportion, otherwise one will stop. If you are not someone who can receive, nobody's going to want to give to you. If you reject or do not acknowledge the gifts that have been given to you, people will stop giving them to you. And then you'll wonder why you're not feeling the love that you were feeling before. It's because you haven't learned to receive it. So I hope these tips helped. So I would love to hear more from you. If you have a question or a comment, please feel free to write it on the blog, write it on fittolove.tv, send me an email, info@invisiblefitness.com, if you have a question you'd like to have addressed on the show. And I thank you again for listening and look forward to sharing more with you soon. Thank you for tuning in to Women, Men, and Relationships. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you want more before next week, come on over to fit2love.tv. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVE.tv, and check out our Sexy Saturdays.